Hello, everyone. This is Manoj Shah, and I'm your host today. So, welcome to another episode of Smart Outsourcing Talks. And as you know that in this podcast we speak about how people have solved the capacity challenges. We speak about outsourcing, offshoring, how it works. But as we call more guests and more personalities, this show has more become towards like a smart growth talks rather than just an outsourcing talks. Because then we have called people who are like champions in running and who have scaled the firm. Somebody could be a technology champion. We have invited somebody from process, SOPs, and stuff like that. And today we have a very, very interesting guest, Carlos Gracia. And Carlos, we are going to talk today more about sales. And today's topic is going to be mindset, messaging, and money. The sales trifecta every accountant needs. So, Carlos, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Manoj. I appreciate it. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah. And before we go ahead, Carlos, let me just introduce you to our viewers and maybe give them a little more facts about you. So Carlos, talks and thinks about mainly the sales, okay, with heart, strategy, and clarity, right? Uh, Carlos is a founder of Exceed Sales Training and co-founder of the Reframe Society, where he's blended sales psychology, coaching, and community building to empower finance professionals. Carlos is also certified as exactly what to say, a guide, right? Helping accountants confidently say what matters and close with clarity. I have here one too.
There it is.
He's transformed how firms approach pricing, negotiation, and value-driven conversations. On the top of that, Carlos co-hosted a recent webinar, "How to Sell Without Feeling Pushy," which is extremely important and interesting, which reflects his unique approach of selling from a service, not a squeeze. With over 2 decades of experience combining sales psychology, communication frameworks, and business innovation, Carlos helps firm leaders to reframe how they show up for clients, for teams, for their own growth. He is also a TextDome certified consultant, helping firms create workflows, processes that empowers them to serve and sell with authenticity. And over his career spanning 2 decades, he helped accountants move from reactive to intentional, from turning tough conversations into a powerful connections. So, Carlos, welcome to Smart Outsourcing Talks, and I am excited for this conversation. So, welcome
Thank
to
you
the
for
show.
that very, very kind introduction. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, to begin with, Carlos, we met, I think, 3 years back. I don't know, you still remember, or either we met online or maybe just after the bridging the gap. I still remember the Zoom call we had, and when you were just starting to kind of a focus only on sales, and I had almost just started Finsmart
Hmm.
offshoring, in US, right? I think it was like 3 years back. And in 3 years, I see you speak everywhere, and you have been coaching and consulting and stuff like that. The most interesting session I liked about yours was last Intuit Connect. That was absolutely awesome, right? And
Thank you.
I'm sure you would have received a lot of appreciation for that. So coming to today's topic, the mindset from I am not into a sales to I lead a growth. So
Hmm.
let's get started. So, what do you think? Why accountants generally shy away from sales? I've seen that because they feel that they are a finance and not sales. But when you start your own firm and want to scale, sales is a core part of it. So what do you think? Why accountants really shy away from sales?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I think the first one is accountants got into the business not because they wanted to talk to people. It's probably because they were more comfortable looking at numbers and staring at a
Hmm,
computer, and they're probably really good at that
hmm,
technical aspect of
hmm,
things. And so I don't think they realized that
hmm,
going to become a firm owner required that
hmm,
you need to sell the value of your services. I think the second thing is
Hmm.
technical professionals tend to have a mindset thinking that my work should sell itself. My
Hmm.
work should speak for itself. So
Hmm.
it's almost this like false assumption. Then when you realize that you're trying to explain the work,
Hmm.
oftentimes we explain it from a perspective of our technical knowledge, not from the perspective of what the client cares about. So
Hmm.
if you were to sit in front of me right now, Manoj, and try to sell me all the benefits of outsourcing from your technical expertise and nothing to do with what I care about,
Hmm.
then that's a very ineffective way of selling. So I think that's
Hmm.
that's one thing. It's like I think they sell
Hmm.
from a
Hmm.
perspective of all the
Hmm.
knowledge that they have. So that's the
Hmm.
second reason.
Hmm.
The third reason
Hmm.
is probably the one
Hmm.
that all people tend to have a perception about is that selling feels nasty. It feels icky. It feels pushy
Hmm.
because the
Hmm.
perception of selling is that
Hmm.
you have to be that way, that you have to be like, let me show you this and let me push this on you and let me convince you.
Hmm.
And I think those are the main three reasons.
Hmm. Right. And how do you reframe sales as a service, and how to not be really pushy, because I understand, because yeah, the accountants would have most of the technical knowledge, right? But uh, the client hardly understands any technical. What they are looking as to uh, how they assess is basically, it's about trust. So it's not about the technical knowledge. So how do you establish that trust and not go too much technical and not be too much pushy?
Well, I think there's a balance. Everything has to align with what is your ultimate mission,
Hmm.
and also there tends to be an internal conflict. I think us as people, when we get
Hmm.
into the world of becoming accountants or becoming a service provider, we
Hmm.
actually do it for several reasons. One is we want to be our own boss. I think
Hmm.
the second reason is we want to help people. We genuinely want to help people. But one
Hmm.
of the problems that I have noticed, at least from having to coach and leading
Hmm. Hmm.
membership communities and some of the things they've shared with me, is that we tend
Hmm.
to have this dilemma of I want to help everybody, and I feel like if they reject me, like
Hmm.
there's this sort of people pleaser kind of tendency. So
Hmm.
we end up kind of like selling ourselves short. So we end up
Hmm.
accepting the lower price, or we end up
Hmm.
trying to do everything we can to get the sale, even though we know that it's not the right client for us. So like
Hmm.
we get very attached
Hmm.
to wanting to please at the
Hmm.
cost of
Hmm.
selling a service less than what it's worth. So I
Hmm.
think the problem is that when you're feeling like that, there's also sort of this, again, belief systems that we create in our mind. Or it's like, well, if
Hmm.
I can never charge that much, or what is somebody else charging? So there's always these things about like we're comparing ourselves to what the industry is charging. There tends to be
Hmm.
a little bit of an imposter syndrome, or like I can never really convince someone that they can pay me that much, or I feel
Hmm.
greedy if I
Hmm.
charge too much. So like
Hmm.
there's a lot of mindset challenges that come into that, and I think the first step to be able to get out of that thinking pattern
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
to be detached from the outcome. Like if be committed to
Hmm.
potentially helping the client, but
Hmm.
accept that not everybody is going to be for you. And I
Hmm.
think the moment people can release themselves from that expectation,
Hmm.
the freedom that they get to show up as their authentic selves in a sales
Hmm.
conversation is
Hmm.
a lot. It's freeing because then you don't have to feel like you have to push anything. You just show
Right.
up, you're there to
Hmm.
serve, and then
Hmm.
whatever they decide, it's on them. You
Hmm.
educate
Hmm.
them, you present the
Hmm.
best value that you can,
Hmm.
it's on the client to make the decision if they want to hire you or not. And if they don't,
Hmm. Hmm.
then good luck,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
people are scared of that.
Hmm. I love that. You said, don't too much be on the outcome, right? You do your job. You just educate them. So, Carlos, you have been, I think, coaching, consulting a lot of clients. Can you share one case study which would have stuck your mind, that to how um, firm owner moved really from being a pushy to kind of a just educating, and kind of a remain at what you have been coaching and consulting.
Well, a lot of it is in the quality of the conversation. I
Hmm.
think too many times the process of the conversation is a good place to start, because what we only know what we know. So, like, I'll give you
Hmm.
an example. An
Hmm.
accountant that doesn't really have like the understanding of having a conversational framework in a sales
Hmm.
discovery call
Hmm.
tends to just really think about inputs and
Hmm.
data and facts. So an
Hmm.
example, a natural example is, I just need to get the information that I need so that I can quote what I can quote, right? So it's like,
Okay.
how many bank
Hmm.
accounts do you have, and how many
Okay.
transactions do you have, and
Hmm.
how many credit cards do you have, and how
Hmm.
many, and
Hmm.
nothing about, tell me about your experience with the last accountant. What did you like
Hmm.
about it? What did you not like about it? What do you expect out of this relationship? What do you value
Hmm.
in terms
Hmm.
of the kind of service that, do you have a specific turnaround time that you expect?
Interesting. Hmm.
Like it being more value focused around what the client
Hmm.
cares about. And
Hmm.
once I think they understand that transition, that the conversation needs to be more about the relationship,
Hmm.
the trust,
Hmm.
what the client
Hmm.
cares about, the context,
Hmm.
etc.,
Hmm.
then that gives them a little bit more comfort. And
Hmm.
then uncovering the how expensive the problem is. So
Hmm.
shifting away from how many inputs, like how many transactions and how many bank accounts, because that tangible thing
Hmm.
makes them feel safe to be able to quote a number. Oh, it's going to be like
Hmm.
10 hours to do the cleanup. So then 10 hours,
Hmm.
and if I charge $100 an hour, then I'll quote $1,000. That's the
Hmm.
hourly billing mindset. But if
Yeah.
they go, what if they ask questions like, well, what results would you get if I get
Hmm.
your books cleaned up? And they say, well, if you
Hmm.
give me the books cleaned up, then I'll have a better, faster decision
Hmm.
on knowing what to purchase, or knowing if I should hire more people, or blah, blah, blah. And what impact would that have on your business? Well,
Hmm.
potentially I could double my sales. Well, what
Hmm.
does double your sales mean? It means
Hmm.
200,000 more revenue.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
great. That's the
Hmm.
value you create.
Yeah.
So if I
Hmm.
can create that value for you, would it be
Hmm.
valuable to hire me for a different, type of service fee?
Yeah.
So once you can help expose the size of
Hmm.
the problem or the size of
Hmm.
the potential solution, then the
Hmm.
mindset of selling becomes easy, because you're able to
Hmm.
quantify the value that you're able
Hmm.
to create for the client.
Hmm. Hmm. Very, very interesting perspective, so most of the times, we had one podcast on pricing, and where we talked about exactly this, how do you move from an hourly billing to a value based pricing, right? So it's a pretty interesting. And coming to this, about this book of what exactly to say, right? I
Mhm.
mean, what are these this book about? Maybe you can talk a little bit.
Sure.
You are also a certified uh, guide for this, what exactly to say.
Yeah. So this little book came out in 2017. It was written
Hmm.
by an author by the name of Phil Jones. He's
Hmm.
a world international known speaker, but he's also
Hmm.
titled as a master of
Hmm.
persuasion and influence. I became a huge fan
Hmm.
of his. Hector,
Okay.
actually, my brother, you know
Huh.
him. He
Hmm.
interviewed him for his podcast like a year after
Okay.
the book came out.
Hmm.
And I was
Hmm.
actually working in a different industry, also doing sales. And my brother was
Hmm.
like, check this out. So I checked it
Hmm.
out, and I found it to be a very practical way for you to
Hmm.
know, like specific prompts that you can use in
Hmm.
conversations,
Hmm.
questions, or
Hmm.
phrases that you could use to become more
Hmm.
influential and impactful, and get
Okay.
clients to make decisions faster, or get them more
Hmm.
comfortable to open up in a conversation, or help
Hmm.
you make the
Hmm.
flow of the conversation be a lot easier. And
Hmm.
none of this is gimmicky. None of this is about being pushy. It's all
Hmm.
about being effective in what you want to achieve in a conversation. There are 23
Hmm.
magic phrases, and the reason they're
Okay.
called magic phrases
Hmm.
is because it
Hmm.
speaks to the subconscious. Because the
Okay.
subconscious is what helps you make decisions, Manoj. So if
Hmm.
I were to
Hmm.
say, Manoj, I'm not sure if it's for you, but
Hmm.
how open-minded would you be for us to
Hmm.
collaborate and maybe potentially
Hmm.
doing something together in the future? What I've
Hmm.
just done is I've used two prompts, two versions
Hmm.
of the magic words. I'm not
Hmm.
sure if it's for you, and
Hmm.
open minded. The
Okay.
phrase I'm not sure if it's for you is
Hmm.
effective because what I'm doing is I'm telling the little voice in your head a
Hmm.
little challenge. I'm saying,
Hmm.
your little voice in your head is saying, well, who are you to tell me what is and what isn't for me?
Ah.
The other little thing that's happening in your head is you're
Hmm.
thinking, what is it? I'm creating a
Hmm.
curiosity gap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Hmm.
and then the last thing that happens if I say but, I'm
Hmm.
shifting your attention to what I'm about to say next. So
Okay.
I'm holding more influence and control of how to present information to you in a
Hmm.
rejection free way. And I'm also saying, hey, there's no pressure here, because I'm
Hmm.
not saying, you know what you should do, Manoj? You know what you should do?
Hmm.
You know how you feel when someone says should to you?
Hmm.
You feel should it on, like you immediately get defensive.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
all of this is happening in just a little powerful phrase. And then I
Hmm.
ask you, how open-minded would you be, or would you be open-minded? And if you
Hmm.
ask a room of 100 people if they can like to see themselves as open-minded, probably more
Hmm.
than 9 out of 10 people will raise their hand. So you're
Okay.
all of you're doing is subconsciously in the back of someone's mind is you're using this welcoming language, this more
Hmm.
influential language, to make
Hmm.
the conversation flow easier
Hmm.
towards the outcome you're looking to achieve. All of
Hmm.
it doing it with integrity.
Hmm. Very, very interesting. Very, very scientific as well.
Yes, there's
So,
neuroscience that proves this. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Carlos, coming to this, since we are on this topic of conversation, many of the firm owners, we find it um, that they hesitate a lot to bring up the topic of offshoring with their clients because, they feel that. Uh, in their minds they don't know whether this is right or not, whether how the clients would be acceptable to it or not, and stuff like that. They all know what is the benefit of outsourcing, offshoring. They all know that there's a tremendous capacity challenge and that's the only way to get a global access to the talent. But when it comes to communicating with the client, they hesitate so much. So can you share a little expertise or your expertise on that as to how do you bring up this conversation, or maybe in your experience you have seen or helped the clients to do that?
Sure. I think in any type of conversation, when you want to introduce something new, something different, or something that might have a certain perspective or
Hmm.
perception, right?
Hmm.
Like there's maybe a negative perception, maybe some sort
Hmm.
of resistant perception, maybe there's
Hmm.
an unknown entity, because they're
Hmm.
just saying outsource and saying
Hmm.
global, right? Like that,
Hmm.
that can already create a little bit of fear of the
Hmm.
unknown. So
Hmm.
anything that could
Hmm.
create any sense of that,
Hmm.
most of the times people will tend to have very blurry understanding of what that
Hmm.
unknown is.
Hmm.
And something I was just recently reading, the more you
Hmm.
get to know what
Hmm.
it is that you fear, the less
Hmm.
scared you are of it,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
what we need to do to avoid the objection is just ask more questions. That's
Hmm.
it. We have to
Hmm.
stay curious before we
Hmm.
start saying, and here are the benefits of outsourcing, and or they say, oh no, I don't want to outsource because blank reason, right? They're going to probably tell
Hmm.
you, well, what if my data is not secure? Or, what if this?
Hmm.
What if that?
Hmm.
What if the internet is not good whenever I need them? What if these people are not, they have access? There's, I'm sure you know all the objections, right?
Hmm.
Get
Hmm.
ahead of
Hmm.
it. Get ahead of it.
Hmm.
So you can ask a couple
Yeah.
questions. It's in the book too, by the way. You
Hmm.
can ask a
Okay.
couple questions. There's a
Hmm.
question in the book that you can ask, what do you know? It's
Hmm.
number 3. If you look at page
Hmm.
20, what do you know?
Okay.
So
Hmm.
you can put a tone of curiosity. And Manoj, I'm
Hmm.
going to put you on the spot and ask a
Hmm.
question that's proactive,
Hmm.
that you could prompt with, what do you know about? And then fill in the
Hmm.
blank
Very good.
to present what it is that you want them, what you want to be curious about, what your client knows about outsourcing.
Hmm. Hmm.
So try that out.
Yeah.
Putting you on the spot right
So,
now.
yeah, no problem. What do you know about everything that has changed since, right? So, what do you know about outsourcing, that has changed in the last 1 decade, right?
I love it.
Um,
Beautiful. You know why that's
yeah.
a great
Yeah.
question? Because it creates curiosity, and there's 99.9% chance that they
Hmm.
don't know what has
Hmm.
changed, which
Hmm.
puts you in
Hmm.
a position of authority, puts you in a
Yeah.
position to now educate them something different
Hmm.
that they thought they knew
Hmm.
about
Hmm.
outsourcing.
Hmm.
You see that? You
Hmm.
see
Hmm.
how just
Yeah.
easy it could just be by asking one question.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
ideally, what you want to do is you want to try to ask questions that help you
Hmm.
understand their basis of knowledge,
Hmm.
and questions that could potentially create a little bit of doubt of what
Hmm.
basis of knowledge they had, that they thought they had
Hmm.
about the
Hmm.
thing they were about to object to you. So you can ask,
Hmm.
what is your experience with outsourcing? You could
Hmm.
ask, what do you
Hmm.
know about the
Hmm.
recent changes with outsourcing?
Hmm.
You could
Hmm.
say, how important is it to you that you have blank, blank, and blank, and you could start prompting some of these questions that are perspective changers. You can
Hmm.
ask, what do you
Hmm.
understand about
Hmm.
how we protect clients' data when it comes to outsourcing?
Hmm.
When was the
Yeah.
last time you heard any information about
Yeah.
outsourcing that had negative impact on
Hmm.
another firm owners? And
Yeah.
so you could
Yeah.
keep on going and start stacking a
Hmm.
series of questions where you're gaining
Hmm.
their understanding and perspective, so that you can have an
Hmm.
opportunity to have
Hmm.
them doubt what they
Hmm.
thought they knew about the thing
Hmm.
you're trying to. And then it puts you in a
Hmm.
position where you can educate them, share the
Then, yeah.
benefits,
Hmm.
present it, and what I said before, we're not here to sell anything.
Hmm.
We're here to educate,
Hmm.
present, and
Yeah.
empower
Hmm.
them to make a decision. But
Hmm.
hopefully, what you'll do is give them a lot more clarity, a lot more certainty,
Hmm.
a lot more
Hmm.
confidence to
Hmm.
consider the possibility
Hmm.
of working with you.
Hmm. Very, very interesting, Carlos. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Uh,
Thanks.
yeah, and most of the times, also what happens is that there is one side of it which is mandated by the IRS, right? That everybody knows that when you do a tax outsourcing, you need to kind of a file form which is like 7216.
It's a
um,
disclosure,
but
right?
yeah, disclosure. And many of the times they don't know that what's there in the accounting. So in accounting side there's no disclosure needed, but for sure they need to integrate something into the engagement letter to make it more transparent, right? How do you bring about that transparency uh, in the engagement or during the conversation?
Yep. I mean, I'm sure that you've probably gotten some best practices already
Hmm.
from your
Yeah.
community. So before I
Hmm.
give you my answer, I'm curious, what have you heard to be the 2 or 3 best practices?
So what we do is that many of the times, when people ask, we have developed a standard clause which can be integrated into the their engagement letter, which says that we would be outsourcing outside the geography, but we have validated everything that's needed to be done as an expert. So that standard clause can be integrated, and if there are questions, then most of the times, like 99% of the times, there are no questions coming from the clients. It was
Yeah,
mostly the fear of the client, that they thought that there would be a challenges, but most of the time there's no questions. But if there are
yeah,
questions coming, then we have prepared a kind of a white paper which we send to them, that okay, here are the objection list, and here is how we kind of cater to. And then that is also a time a lot of firm owners ask at the time of signing up, right? So it's like almost there is a part of the pitch deck.
yeah. I would say, if you're about to finish the sale and you
Hmm.
typically towards the end of a conversation, you say, you talked a little bit about the idea that it will be outsourced. I think not catch
Hmm.
them off guard.
Hmm.
I would
Hmm.
use language like, we have an embedded team that works overseas,
Yeah. Hmm.
and there's it's going to be a resource that we leverage to help you get your
Hmm.
accounting done for you within
Hmm.
a time frame. Your
Hmm.
information will continue to be secured through our secure
Hmm.
portal, and what you'll
Hmm.
find in your engagement letter is a disclosure that explains that. Please
Hmm.
go ahead and read it, and should you
Hmm.
have any other questions, you let us know.
Hmm.
So what happens
Hmm.
next is we're going to go ahead and send you that engagement
Yeah.
letter. Once you sign
Yeah.
that, go ahead and make the deposit. We'll get everything started.
Hmm.
What questions do you have? And you
Hmm.
explain it like it's just a normal thing that
Hmm.
you do in business.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
moment you start
Hmm.
showing nervousness,
Hmm.
then
Yeah.
people are going to
Hmm.
feel
Hmm.
like,
Hmm. Hmm.
okay, then I should be nervous if you're nervous.
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
have to just confidently be able to explain it and feel good about
Hmm.
being transparent about it.
Hmm, yeah, and this is the word you brought about, embedded, right? So, in fact, we call ourselves an embedded team because
Hmm.
we say you don't outsource. We embed our team into your organization. It just works like any other resource which you would have directly hired. So it works
Yeah.
exactly the same. So, yeah. So coming to next part of it is how to articulate value when selling outcomes and not just hours. You just nudge about it, but maybe we need to go a little deep into that as to how do you really create that kind of a value, or how do you display that value?
It always comes around the quality of the questions that you ask,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
oftentimes I think we've been raised in our lives in the school system
Hmm.
to be very linear in the way that we have conversations. I'll give you an example. If
Hmm.
you were in math class when you were a kid,
Hmm.
right, and
Hmm.
someone says, "What's 2 times 2?" and you go
Hmm.
4, right?
Ah.
What's 9 times 9? 81. Who was the
Hmm.
first president of whatever?
Hmm.
It was, if there was a question, you needed to give an answer.
Hmm.
And oftentimes when clients are asking the accounting professionals questions,
Hmm.
we're always like feeling like that knee-jerk reaction that we always have to give a straight answer.
Hmm.
So my first step is to say we have to stay curious in our
Hmm.
conversations and
Hmm.
not just go into solution mode. Okay,
Okay.
because ed class, I learned this idea from ed class first, is that
Hmm.
non-sales professionals, right, like non-sales experts that sell
Hmm.
services, they
Hmm.
suffer from this disease. I call it a
Hmm.
disease. Are you ready to hear what it's called? I call it solutionism. We're so
Okay.
desperate to try to
Hmm.
think of the solution, right?
Hmm.
Because we're checklist oriented, just like a
Yeah.
1040 checklist. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, how many accounts, how many
Hmm.
transactions, how many
Hmm.
businesses, how many entities, how many team
Hmm.
members,
Hmm.
how many 1099s, how many W2s,
Hmm.
but how
Hmm.
many, checklist,
Hmm.
checklist, checklist,
Hmm.
checklist.
Hmm.
Okay, now I'm ready to give the answer. Where
Hmm.
instead, if we get away from checklists and we just become more curious about the
Hmm.
problem and
Hmm.
go deep into the problem and really try
Hmm.
to navigate all of
Hmm.
the things that the business owner needs help seeing that
Hmm.
nobody's ever asked them before. So
Hmm.
there's context gathering
Yeah.
questions, there's consequence value
Hmm.
based questions,
Hmm.
just questions that help the business owner say, wow, I never thought about that. Oh, I never saw it
Hmm.
that way. Oh,
Hmm.
what is what happens if you do nothing? What happens if you don't work on catching up on your books? What happens if you don't
Hmm. Hmm.
catch up on your taxes? What happens
Hmm.
if you don't take care of this
Hmm.
main issue that you have of being short staffed? What will
Hmm.
be the consequence if you can, if you keep on
Hmm.
hiring your cousin to do your books for you? Like, what could
Hmm.
be some of the risks? And like, you ask all of these deep, deep, deep,
Hmm.
deep questions. The client is exposing how expensive their problem is. And now you stop thinking about
Hmm.
inputs and you start thinking about outcomes.
Hmm.
And in your back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, well, if they don't take care of that problem, that's a $10,000 problem.
Hmm.
If they don't take care of that problem, that's $100,000
Hmm.
of missed revenue.
Hmm.
If they don't take care of this problem,
Hmm.
that's a client that they might lose that generates 50K. And in your mind, you're thinking, oh, okay, this is the value that I can
Hmm.
create, or the potential negative impacts that I could help them
Hmm.
avoid, right?
Hmm.
This is the risk, the quantifiable
Hmm.
risk that I can help them avoid.
Hmm.
Or even if it's just, I just want to feel like I can trust
Hmm.
someone. I just want to feel like if I call you, you'll answer the
Hmm.
phone. I just want to feel like I'm not
Hmm.
anxious about my tax bill
Hmm.
at the end of the year. Like, sometimes there are certain things that you can't quantify,
Hmm.
like feeling safe, feeling like I could trust you.
Hmm.
And I think once we can get people shifting to
Hmm.
that, then being able to position the pricing more on the value you
Hmm.
create, or the risk that you help
Hmm.
someone mitigate,
Hmm.
then it makes it easier for you to
Hmm.
reconcile with shifting to
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
model. It was hard for
Hmm.
me. I'm going to tell you
Hmm.
straight up, Manoj. I spent in my first training,
Hmm.
PowerPoint. It took me hours. I probably spent 20 hours building my first PowerPoint when I was a
Hmm.
trainer. I went to Hector being my guru, my
Hmm.
mentor, and he was telling me, "What do you think about charging for
Hmm.
this?" It was like, "Oh, it's a workshop I want to sell. It's 4 weeks. It's going to be 4 hours." And in my mind, it's per hour. So I'm like, I was thinking
Hmm.
per
Hmm.
hour,
Hmm.
right? But I wasn't thinking about how much value will it create?
Hmm.
How many more sales will people get? Like, I wasn't thinking that
Hmm.
way. I was thinking about how much time it took me to get the work done.
Hmm.
So I gave him a price. He told me, "How much you thinking about
Hmm.
charging that?" I go, In my mind, I was
Or
thinking $500. But I knew he was going to say that's too little, charge more. So I said 700, and he said that's too little, charge more. I go, what? He's like, yes, you're going to charge $2,500. I'm like, how the heck am I going to charge that? I was scared. But then he explained to me, look, you're doing a sales training for 25 salespeople. If 25 salespeople go to your workshop for 4 weeks and they get one extra sale, how much value does that create for the business owner? One extra sale is worth how much? $1,000 into the business owner's pocket. So if 25 salespeople create $25,000 of value, you're charging 10% of that. So you're potentially 10xing their results. My mind just went, oh. And I became more confident in being able to price things differently. Make sense?
Absolutely. And
So I think that's where accountants want to try to shift that idea.
And how do you share this? So when you're pitching to the clients, do you share this? This is a kind of a value that we are going to create, or how do you
I
how
don't.
do
I
you
just say the price.
softly
I just
how do you softly bring that
you,
what's the value for the
you
service?
just say the price.
Okay.
You just say the price. So what happens is the value is being created in the conversation through the the quality of the questions that you ask. Because what's happening in the back of someone's mind, well, first of all, there's other things that are happening. And I'm going to plug a book, another book from one of our speakers from Reframe. His name is Blair Enns. And he writes a book called The Four Conversations.
The Four Conversations.
So there are four things that an expert needs to do in order to be able to have better conversations to sell their expertise. This is about selling expertise and positioning yourself as an expert, not as a vendor. Okay, what's the difference between a vendor and an expert? A vendor is a commodity, an expert is a one-of-one. It's a unique individual that can only solve more valuable. And one of the things that you need to do is build authority, build expertise early, right? Just like you, the first thing you did in the intro, right? Carlos, I see you speaking everywhere. Like, my authority is there, so my value is there, right? Because I create content, I've built authority, I've been speaking on stages, I've already established credibility with that potential buyer. If anybody wants, so that value has been pre-created, and that's called the probative conversation. It's the conversation before the conversation. Is what are you doing to build expertise before you have the first sales conversation? What are you doing right now, Manoj, is doing this podcast with me, is actually a way that you're actually raising your value. Then there's a couple of other things, right? Quality of the questions that you ask. Then there is the explanation of your process and your services. And if you can articulate the value of your processes and your services, there's also case studies, testimonials. All of these things are the way you package how valuable your services are. So when you communicate the price, it's easy for the client to say, yeah, makes sense.
Fantastic.
Right? And
you packaged it so well.
Yeah, it's all packaged. It's all packaging. At the end of the day, it's all packaging. If you go to a car dealership, that's a Lamborghini car dealership, how much money are you expecting to spend on a Lamborghini? Because of the way that it's packaged, right? The brand has already built itself to be worth that much. So the way you brand your business and the way you brand yourself has a lot to do with how you can position the value of your services.
And Carlos, coming to the next is that many of the times I've seen that while doing sales, a lot of these firm owners have a lot of pressure, you could say, or maybe the kind of fear of rejection. So how do you handle that fear of rejection and go with confidence, right?
If only I had the magical answer to that, Manoj. But I can give you a couple of things that I have found to be useful and proven to work. The first thing is figuring it out alone is tough, right? Like, so the only answer to overcome fear is action. Is you got to do it even though you're scared. Try it. So put yourself in a position of becoming vulnerable and trying something that's uncomfortable. Now, I'm not telling people here after this podcast to go out there and if you're charging $1,000 a month for whatever, to just raise it
mm,
to 2,000. You
mm,
you need to have competency first before you
mm.
can reach confidence,
Right.
right?
Mm, mm,
Competency means is educate yourself on
mm.
frameworks, like listen to this podcast, read
Right.
the books that we've been recommending, right? So
Mm,
go to the experts that have the proven results and the
mm,
frameworks, right?
mm,
Maybe you can hire someone to coach you. I provide that
mm,
kind of coaching.
mm, mm,
Join a mastermind or a specific community that can
mm,
help you borrow
mm,
somebody else's
mm,
confidence, which is what I
mm,
did with Hector
mm, mm,
when I moved from my $500 price to $2,500 price. I
mm,
borrowed his confidence
mm,
because I
mm,
didn't have
mm.
it at the time.
Right.
And you
Right.
work in small steps. Try it
Mm,
on your
mm,
next new client,
mm,
right?
mm,
Try moving it a little bit,
mm.
because that's how you start boosting confidence. I think the other thing that we tend to
Mm,
sometimes forget is
mm,
that even though what got you here won't get you
mm,
there,
mm.
but what got you here was you.
Ah,
And you can build your confidence based on your past successes.
right.
So rather than thinking
Mm,
about building a to-do list,
mm.
build your done it list.
Okay.
Think
Interesting.
about all of the things we've done since we were born
Mm,
that made us
mm,
who we are, that got us to
mm.
where we are. Think about all the
Right.
accomplishments,
Yeah.
all the
Mm,
obstacles, all the adversity we've already
mm,
have had to
mm,
endure and overcome, all
mm,
the
mm,
rejections that we had
mm,
to face to
mm,
get to where we are.
mm, mm,
So if we
mm,
can do it that many times
mm.
up
Yeah.
to date, what
Yeah.
tells us that we can't do the next thing?
Yeah.
So those would be two
Interesting.
or three things I'd share.
Mm, mm. Very good. Yeah. So, get the competence before to get the confidence, right? So, um, in your experience, what are the two or three common mistakes that accounting firm owners makes, when they talk about pricing?
Well, I would think that they are not, they don't understand
Hmm.
why they should charge what they're charging.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
sometimes, that could create a lot of uncertainty.
Hmm.
Like they don't believe in it, or they don't
Hmm.
understand it. So I think that's
Hmm.
important.
Hmm.
So being able to have pricing tools, pricing
Hmm.
frameworks, things that
Hmm.
can give you some supporting
Hmm.
evidence that it makes
Hmm.
sense,
Hmm.
and that could give you belief and confidence in
Hmm.
supporting that's the value of
Hmm.
that. So I think that could be
Hmm.
one of the mistakes.
Hmm.
Another one is, like I mentioned, I think a lot of accounting non-sales professionals,
Hmm.
they go into discovery calls,
Hmm.
um, dumping too much information on the client, so they
Okay.
end up kind of like getting themselves out of the sale, if that makes
Hmm.
talking themselves out of the sales. So
Hmm.
I'll give you an example. If you were to try to sell your services to
Hmm.
me, and all you do is word vomit a bunch of technical stuff, I'm
Hmm.
probably going to be turned off.
Hmm.
So clarity beats, just information. Like, you
Hmm.
only share the information that is important for the client to hear to help them make a
Right.
decision. So
Hmm.
a confused buyer is not going to buy
Hmm.
anything. So I
Hmm.
think sometimes we might over inform our clients,
Yeah.
like, information overload, I think, is
Hmm.
the second things that I see in a conversation. And three is they don't have a structure, they don't have a process.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
would say
Hmm.
those things. Find pricing
Hmm.
frameworks that will help you better
Hmm.
understand how to properly
Hmm.
quote clients. Have the proper communications framework. Again, I'm
Hmm.
not trying to
Hmm.
plug it, but it's my favorite
Hmm.
one.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the other thing is, like, speak more clearly. Only say
Hmm.
what you need to say, and only ask what you
Sure.
need to ask. And
Hmm.
you'll find that everything else will come together.
Sure. And what is the role of training or in this, in sales?
Well, you are the owner of your
Hmm.
own growth, my own growth, right? And
Hmm.
if I'm owning my own business, the only way I can grow my
Hmm.
business is I need to grow myself.
Hmm. Yeah.
The moment I
Hmm.
realized that, you see all these books behind me,
Hmm.
is the moment that I unlocked all my
Yeah.
growth opportunity. When
Yeah.
I used to work in a corporate company,
Hmm.
they used to, like, set up these trainings for us, like almost
Hmm.
every
Hmm.
90 days. We would have
Hmm.
trainers teach us a bunch of stuff. And I would love that stuff. I'm a learner, and I'm
Hmm.
sure you are
Hmm.
too, if you got into
Yeah.
your own stuff,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Because, the more things you learn, the more knowledge is
Hmm.
power, as they say, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And when I quit the corporate role, I
mm,
felt in my first year being a business owner very
mm,
lost and very
mm,
alone, because being an entrepreneur is a
mm,
very lonely
mm.
journey.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
I realized there isn't anything that's giving me like fuel to feel
mm,
excited about, like I need new knowledge, I need new things. And
mm,
when I started realizing, oh, I need to take ownership of my own knowledge,
mm, mm,
is when everything changed, because now
mm,
I create my own growth, personal development and professional
mm,
development path. And then
mm,
basically all of the potential started to continue to multiply.
mm, mm,
So that would be something, when when I think of someone that's looking to grow their business,
mm,
they need to grow
mm.
themselves. They need to grow their
Sure.
knowledge,
Mm,
their
mm,
skill sets, and you have to
mm.
invest in yourself, which means
Sure.
join
Mm,
a mastermind, go to
mm,
conferences,
mm,
read books,
mm,
hire
mm,
coaches
mm.
and mentors, because those
Sure.
things are going to
Mm,
give you ROI in
mm.
multiples. This is why business owners hire
Sure.
accounting
Mm,
professionals, right? All the
sure.
same thing.
Mm,
They're looking
mm.
to get
Yeah.
ROI through the
Mm,
expertise.
mm. Sure. Yeah. And Carlos, what is the formats that you apply? I mean, you do a lot of coaching and training. So it's a group or individual or how it works?
Yeah, so I could do private workshops for firm owners who
Mm.
have like,
Okay.
fairly large teams that are looking to like
Mm.
improve their sales processes, their client experience
Mm.
process, the workflow processes. I also
Mm.
work with, SaaS companies that want to help their sales
Mm.
teams
Mm.
improve their sales process. Any
Mm.
vendors or partners that work in the ecosystem of accounting. I worked in
Mm.
financial industry, so anywhere from
Mm.
corporate training down to one-on-one
Mm.
training. And then we have the
Sure.
Reframe Society, which is
Mm.
the mastermind workshop for firm owners. So like they
Mm.
join,
Mm.
and we do monthly, mastermind with Hector, myself. We
Okay.
teach these ideas:
Okay.
pricing,
Mm.
mindset, sales,
Mm. Mm.
anything having to do how to run your firm in a way that is innovative, creative, and
Mm.
forward looking.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah. And as the firm owner grows, right, and you need to deploy more sales team, right? So, how do you delegate or create more sales champion within the organization? I mean, one is that of course you have learned it. Now it comes to how do you create more such sales champions in the organization?
Yeah. I mean, I suspect that if a firm owner has figured out how to grow and
Hmm.
scale, it's
Hmm.
because they probably figured out how to be good at being the
Hmm.
primary seller, right?
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
really hard once you get so good to
Hmm.
be like, oh, how do I let go of this? Because I
Hmm.
finally mastered it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a challenge, but
Hmm.
it would require
Hmm.
documenting and codifying all the steps and
Hmm.
all your processes into some sort of
Hmm.
system. So having
Hmm.
a practice management system with automations, I think will
Hmm.
help you remove a lot of the tasks, so
Hmm.
the firm owner can focus on what they want to do. Most firm owners, what
Hmm.
they do
Hmm.
is they delegate the task part so that they can focus on new business.
Yeah.
But if
Hmm.
you want a firm owner that wants to champion someone to do the sales, it has to be someone that they can trust, someone
Hmm.
that could shadow the owner, shadow the way the
Hmm.
owner wants to sell,
Hmm.
understand the processes, where the
Hmm.
owner's spending time developing that person, giving them,
Hmm.
monthly or weekly coaching, observing
Hmm.
their conversations, giving them feedback, or you hire a third party, like someone
Hmm.
like me or another
Hmm.
sales expert to,
Hmm.
build
Hmm.
that framework and support it.
Hmm. Hmm. Sure. Okay. So, Carlos, as we come to the last question on this podcast, um, what are that two or three takeaways you can give to the firm owners who are listening to this podcast as to what they can start doing to change their pricing strategy or their uh, value creation journey?
Yeah. Reframe selling as serving. Stay curious in conversations. Stop being overload, information overload,
Hmm.
and really invest in resources that will help you figure out how to price with confidence. I
Hmm.
think one of the biggest challenges that business owners struggle with is not just the
Hmm.
selling part, it's the
Hmm.
pricing conversation. It's like
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
psychology of money
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
people is just
Hmm.
immediate fear. Like how to
Hmm.
charge more, not just on new clients, but like how do I grab
Hmm.
my existing clients that I've been charging
Hmm.
undercharging for 5, 10 years and I never raised my
Hmm.
price. How do I
Hmm.
introduce a new price to them? Like there's a lot of that going on too. And so
Hmm.
I think investing in tools, frameworks, resources, communities
Hmm.
that can help them
Sure.
do that will
Hmm.
immediately build their confidence and then also
Hmm.
give them the freedom to then
Hmm.
really do what they want to do. Because the problem is that too many firm owners are overwhelmed, overworked, and
Hmm.
underpaid, and it's
Hmm.
because they haven't changed their prices. So I think if
Hmm.
you, once they fix their prices, knowing that not everyone's going to stay with you,
Hmm.
but it's going to release you from a lot of this
Yeah.
tension, a lot of this stress, a lot of
Hmm.
this being overwhelmed. Because we first got to get rid of the stress. Well,
Hmm.
once you get rid of the stress, then you
Hmm.
can operate with clarity.
Hmm.
So fix your processes, fix your prices, and then then you kind of fix yourself.
Yeah. And I like that. Stay curious, right? So stay curious in the conversation. That is a big takeaway. So
Yes, sir.
thank you, Carlos, for being here with us on this smart outsourcing talks. And I really love this conversation and wishing you good luck and see you soon again in the next conference.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Great conversation.
Yeah, thanks. Bye bye. Take care.
Okay, take care.
ये जेब कन्या